Chair Griffin, we are now live.
Good afternoon. I'm Aaron Griffin, Chair, and I would like to welcome you to the August 11th, 2022 African American Heritage Commission virtual meeting. We will now call our meeting to order. The City County African American Heritage Commission consists of 9 members. 3 of those members are appointed by Asheville City Council, 3 appointed by Buncombe County Commissioners, Buncombe County Board of Commissioners, and 3 appointed by 6 appointed members. The commission is to advise the City Council and County Commissioners about the preservation, interpretation, and promotion of African American arts, history, and culture. All committee members and staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through committee meetings a bit differently. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the committee page. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone by dialing 855-925-2801 and entering meeting code 9409. For those of you who plan to speak during our live public comment today, you will need to hit *3 to be put in the speaker queue. I will now go through and introduce all the committee members and staff who are participating virtually. For our committee members, please make sure to mute your microphone if you're not speaking. When you have a question or would like to speak, click raise hand, and when recognized by the chair, unmute your microphone. Please remember to mute your phone after you are done speaking. Committee members, Aaron Griffin, here. Ashley Wilberding.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Brandon Oliver.
Hello.
Catherine Mitchell.
Good evening, everyone.
Michael Hayes. Stephen Blunt. Okay, I'd like to welcome our newest member, Diamond Couch, which she cannot be with us today, but good afternoon. Staff and guest attending, Brenda Mills, Director of Equity and Inclusion in the City of Asheville.
Good evening, everyone.
Leonard Jones, Community Engagement Specialist, Buncombe County.
Good evening, everybody.
Sandra Kilgore, City Council Liaison. Alex Cole, Urban Planner, Planning and Urban Design.
Hey, everybody.
Pete Wall, Focus Area, Parks and Recreation. Alec Wynn, Supervisor, Grant Center Recreation Facility. And Josie Ward, Board President, Preservation Society.
Chair Griffin.
Yes.
You must have pulled out the one before I updated. We have Jessica Johnston here to do the presentation along with Alex Cole and Josie Ward. Pete Wall and Alec could not join us tonight. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Chair, you're muted.
Jessica Johnston, I'm sorry.
Thanks. Hope everyone's well.
Okay. To help our audience follow along, I'll state each section of our agenda aloud. Again, I ask committee members to click raise hand and be recognized to speak. Please state your name each time you comment. Just a reminder that the public is listening on the phone, and this keeps them up to date on the order of the meeting and who is commenting or speaking. First on our agenda, approval of minutes for April the 14th, 2022. So action needed to be approved. Please take a few minutes to review, and I need a motion with a second for both sets of minutes. Once you have a motion, then we'll move forward. So a motion for the approval of minutes of April 14th.
I move to approve.
And a second.
I second Catherine Mitchell.
All right. We're gonna do a roll call of the commissioners again. Aaron Griffin here. Ashley Wilberding.
Yes.
Brandon Oliver.
Yes.
Catherine Mitchell.
Yes.
Michael Hayes.
Yes.
All right. Next on the agenda, we're gonna have staff updates. City liaison Brenda Mills.
I'm gonna forego a lot of updates. I don't have anything really pressing, so that we can get on with the presentations tonight. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much.
But I also wanted to tell you, your liaison, Sandra Kilgore, could not be here tonight. She had a conflict, so she sends her regrets. That's all.
Okay. Well, thank you. County liaison Leonard Jones.
The only few things I have to share with the committee would be the county is still doing a comprehensive plan survey, so we strongly encourage people to go out to engage Buncombe, and you can fill out the survey under the comprehensive plan. Those comprehensive plan surveys will still be open until September the 6th. Another thing I'd like to highlight with the county is that the Pack Memorial Library currently having an exhibit going on right now around North Carolina Black architects and builders, and that will be at the Pack Memorial Library. It started on August the 1st, and it'll be there until October the 10th. I do think they highlight James Vester Miller, which is a local resident, a local past resident with Buncombe County with a lot of historical African-American structures around here. So strongly encourage the community to come out and support that exhibit at the Pack Memorial Library. And again, that'll be August the 1st through October the 10th. And just something fun out there, with the election coming up, the election department is currently having a contest for a young people in the community between the age of 13 to 18. They're trying to design I voted stickers. So if you know any young individuals artistic that would like to participate in that process, that is currently going on right now. And I believe they can also go on engagebuncombe.org, buncombecounty.org as well to find out more information about that contest with the elections department. And that's all my update. Oh, another update I have, I think we had mentioned that they finally finished the African-American historical maps of African-American landmarks here. And so a lot of those maps can be found at a public library. They also can be found at some of the community centers in our historical Black neighborhoods, Stevens Lee, Grant Center, Edenton Center, and Shiloh and Burton Street. And so we have plenty more maps out there. So if you're looking for some, you can get in touch with the Buncombe County Cape Department, and we can bring some of those maps out to you to share with the community. And that's all my updates I have for the commission.
Thank you, Leonard. So next on the agenda, we have unfinished business. We had the meeting, the planning meeting on the 21st, May 21st of this year. We went over several things, as far as the new direction that we want to take our commission. Hold hopefully that, that we'll begin real soon to get started on that. Dr. Fox came in and helped us out a lot to sort of, push us in the right direction. So I just encourage you guys to just go back and review that meeting. So the next time we meet, we can really get focused and get moving in the right direction. Anyone? Go ahead, Brenda. I'm sorry.
No apologies. If you will look on page 5 and 6 of the, I shared that information with you guys, where on page 5, it talks about what your current goals are and then what the draft planning session goals are. So what we can do for the next meeting is we're going to just take most of the meeting to delve into those goals and what those things might look like moving forward. I think some discussion tonight would be helpful for you in terms of some next steps for what you would like to do. Hopefully you'll be energized by that. Chair Griffin, I'm sorry, I keep muting you. Your mic is talking to us while I'm talking. So just unmute yourself when you talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. All right, so we're going to move on to the new business. We have Stephanie Dollar of Planning and Urban Design.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Chair and members of the African American Heritage Commission. I am going to share just 2 slides to help facilitate our conversation tonight. Okay, great. So I'm here tonight to talk to you all about an allocation of $10,000 that was made to the African American Heritage Commission over 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago. So this came on the heels of the Public Art and Cultural Commission working with city staff to finish up a project called Celebrating African Americans Through Public Art. It was instigated many years ago by Brenda Mills and some folks to consider how to diversify the city's public art collection, both in the type and material of arts that we put in public spaces, but also the type of artists that we use, and especially looking at promoting cultural expression within our African American community. So we wrapped up that project, which culminated with the installation of Hope Springs Forth Brightly, which is an installation on the corner of Eagle Street and Biltmore Avenue that is a collaboration between 5 artists, and then another installation right in front of the municipal building and the fire station. And in January, the Public Art and Cultural Commission realized that there was some opportunity to use some additional money that was out there to support the original mission of the African American Heritage Commission. So at the time the African American Heritage Commission was created, I believe that there was a lot of impetus around creating a memorial or public art, specifically that looked at history, values, people, many other things associated with our Black community here. There was money that was allocated by the city and the county during a fiscal year cycle that went away, and the Public Art and Cultural Commission said, why don't we go ahead and try to reallocate money for the African American Heritage Commission? So long story short, and I'm going to give this presentation to you all so you can see these links, but there's a link here to the adopted resolution that was made in 2020 where the Public Art and Cultural Commission basically said, yes, staff, please hold some money this fiscal year for the African American Heritage Commission to work on some kind of project of their choosing that aligns with this. And then I came to the African American Heritage Commission later that month to respond to a question. I basically said, how would we go about doing this? What would be some next steps? And so there's a presentation in there as well that you'll have a link to. And then, as you all remember, there was a pandemic and everything kind of shut down. Things changed. I'll say they changed drastically, and including we stopped having advisory board meetings for a certain time until we could go to remote meetings. And even then, we didn't have meetings very often. But also during this time period, a lot of other projects picked up. So you had the Equal Justice Initiative, which, culminated this year with the installation of several markers marking the recorded lynchings that happened in Buncombe County, African American Heritage Trail funding through Explore Asheville, the completion of the historic James Vester Miller Walking Trail, and others. Staff also recognize that the original resolution, which basically said, hey, we're going to allocate this money for that fiscal year, was not a realistic expectation because of the pandemic. So we just kind of set it aside and we said, we're going to hold on to this money until we're in a good place. And it sounds like because you guys had an excellent retreat with Dr. Fox and others, that you might be in a good place to start having these conversations. And the question really is, where do we go from here? So let me clarify that staff is not asking you to answer this, to consider this today. It's really just an opening or breaking the ice to think about it. And it's something that when you put it on, when you do want to consider it at a future meeting, we will have a full staff report that allows the public and allows you as members to really think about this ahead of the meeting. But what you'll need to do is say whether or not you still think you guys want to use that $10,000. It's a yes or a no. And some questions you might want to consider is whether or not there's still a need. Are you in the same place as you were 2.5 years ago? What are your interests now? Are there projects that you want to support, or do you want to do your own? Does this advisory board have the capacity to work on it? And many other questions of your own choosing. If you do decide that you want to work on it, we will need to come up with a timeline. I think staff realizes that we also are not going to put a deadline for that. If you said yes, that you would need to spend that $10,000 by July 1st of 2023, which it takes some time for you to do the background work to go out and contract and work with people. So, we might want to extend that. We'll have that discussion. But you also need to agree, if you say yes, on a process for deciding how to use it. And then there'll be other things that come from there. So that was just a quick overview because I know that this board has a lot of new members, and you may not be aware of this $10,000 allocation or certain aspects that govern its usage. I'm here to answer questions and provide any further clarity if you need it.
Thank you, Stephanie. I got a question. Is this something? Is this carrying over from 2020, or this is something new? And if it is, then what is the proper procedure to give the yes or no?
Okay.
It is not a carryover from last year.
I'm sorry.
It is not a carryover from last year. It's been carried over since FY 14, I believe, Stephanie.
Well,
yeah.
In a way, yes. In a way.
Yeah.
That's a way to think about it. It's the city really originally allocated $10,000 when you guys were formed. The city and the county both did.
No. We were, let me tell you what happened. Remember when the Vance Monument got maintenance? You guys remember that? We had the 26 North Carolina, and the Black community got concerned, quite amply. And the mayor said, can we do something? Can we give a plot of land for you to use this, for them to do something for African Americans as well? So we gave 10,000 and the county gave 10,000. Now the county has used theirs to do the markers in the communities. So that's been spent. This is the money that's carried over from that, and we've not spent that. So this is an opportunity, since, Stephanie and there's a bunch of us involved with Pack Square or other projects, for us to consider doing something with that money. And I spoke to you about this money when I came on the board. It's understandable you don't remember.
No, it's the same money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, because I think even before I got on the commission, they had already decided. They had some great ideas about some things that can happen in Pack Square. So this is great. So we'll get on it. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie.
Are you interested in getting involved with that project? Is what you're saying, maybe?
Maybe it would be helpful for me
I
to.
guess I'm not really understanding. It's a separate project? It's not.
There is no project for your money. There is
Okay.
a Pack Square project going on where you can get involved with your money to support something around African American culture, art, history. Does that make sense?
So is the support just the funding, or the support is us actually
All
coming
of
up?
it. All of it.
Okay.
We
All
want
right.
your feedback on what that would look like. Now, Stephanie can talk to you more about those meetings because she's spearheading that. But this is an opportunity to take that funding and do something with it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. And Stephanie, I'll get more information from you and we'll have you come back at another time. We appreciate you.
All right. Next, the Walton Street Pool Landmark. We have Jessica Johnston. Hi, Jessica.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I know you were expecting Pete Wall and Alec Wynn. I guess I'm pitch hitting for them today. They were involved in stuff outside of this, so they weren't able to make it. So yeah, Walton Street Park, enhancing recreational opportunities for the Southside community. This is something we've been working on since April intently. The portion I'm gonna speak more on is the recreation side of it, and then Alex is gonna take it from there on the historical designation side. So again, I appreciate the commission and the chair for inviting us to use this method to make sure we're being transparent and making sure everybody's aware of what's going on. So if Brenda, are you going to slide? Yep. So our key takeaways, the city definitely recognizes that there's improvements, physical recreation side improvements that are needed, as well as the historical significance of the park, the pool house. We definitely want to honor all of that. During our engagement process, though, the city has been very intentional on working very closely with the neighborhood and then their newly formed association, Southside United. And we're trying to figure out, we're figuring out with them the most equitable way to help the community as a whole participate in everything. And then taking that engagement and we're always, again, with the transparency, making it available on our project pages and all of that. And I do have links for those. If it would be beneficial, I can put them in the chat or share them in another way. You all just let me know. Okay, I'm ready to go down. So the first part of our neighborhood engagement the first part of it was to figure out how best would the community want to be engaged with. I know from the park side, we're all about let's throw a party and let's also talk to neighbors. Let's figure out kind of what they want to see. And actually that made it into one of the preferred methods. And then also the one-on-one talking to community members and neighbors, and then as well as the digital and online portion of it, which is where the public input survey comes in. Our goals for all this is to collect this input from the community to then guide us on how to spend that $500,000 on the improvements for the recreational features. So the $500,000 is for the recreation side. So the park, where the playground is, and the ball field and the basketball court. And then with that, where Alex and her team come in is to determine neighborhood support on the historic designation of the pool and the pool house and the options on that. So I'm ready to go down, please. So we wanted to be very clear on what the completed project will be and what it will not. And we just want to make sure we're very transparent on that. So we're wanting to use identified funding from the program to determine the high priority park improvements to meet the needs of the community while addressing the existing safety concerns. And then back to the historical designation to determine the desire of the neighborhood on that designation. What we also want to make sure everyone is aware, the project will not make improvements to the pool or add aquatics facilities. We are in the process of completing the large expansion project down at the Wesley Grant Center, which will include a pool. Yes, sir.
Yes. So that part right there, the complete, as far as not renovating the pool, was that something that it was asked to the community? Or that's something that was decided?
Well, it was in 2017, I believe there was outreach done with the community. And I want to say one of the questions did ask that. But then after further investigation and look into the pool, we weren't able to renovate it with the condition that it was in, from my understanding. So it was asked, and then the city did have to make a decision on that due to the state of the pool, to be honest with you. Does that help?
Well, yeah, I mean, it helps, but
Yeah.
There's just so many children used to go there.
I know.
And Ray Harrell used to be there consistently all the time. So, you're talking about preserving, that is a part of preserving what is there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not really, hopefully not to get too far off, because I grew up in that park myself, so to be able to preserve what's there, to enhance what's there would be great. It sounds like the city is asking for new suggestions for that part. Is that it? You want to change it?
Well, no. We want to enhance it, the recreation side of it. So like the park and the field and the basketball goal, or the basketball, the blacktop. We're wanting to enhance that portion.
Okay, I mean, that's good, because as long as like the people in that area, especially I grew up there. So it's like like what's happening down at the Grant and even at Walton, I don't want to feel like I can't be a part of that. There's a lot of things that's happening. No. There's a lot of things that's happening in these communities as far as the betterment, and that, I don't feel like I'm a part. I feel like a total stranger. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's good that you're asking questions, and I really appreciate you coming
Yeah.
and speaking to us. You know, and this is something. Walton Street is something that me personally, I'm very interested in because I grew up there, and my family. You know, my family around that area. So thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate that. And what I'm going to get into here momentarily is the survey and then the engagement we've done, which I'm also going to talk about. We're not done with that engagement, which is great that we're here because now I can share all this with you all and, you know, invite you to be a part of this engagement. So if you'll go down, Brenda. So the initial engagement in April when we got together was that engagement. That first part was asking the community how they wanted to be engaged with. And we were just trying to figure out how could we get, you know, future surveys and information from the community. And that's where we found out that, you know, in-person events, as well as the online portal and then the one-on-one talking to neighbors. And we did walk the neighborhood a lot, but these were a couple of the in-person events that we put up a table to do engagement for this. And it was the groundbreaking at the Grant Center. And then the team over with me at the Grant Center did have a block party up at Walton Street, and we got a ton of feedback there. And then we've had Grant Center block parties where we've always had information available. And then Shavonda Harper and her team have done a couple of bike pop-ups. And she's, you know, gotten information through those. We also had paper surveys that we printed and had at both Grant and Eddington. And then we've now put up informational signs and have QR codes for easy access to the survey. And then we also, if you go down, we put out an informational mailer, and it, as you can see, went out to 494 direct mail on May 27th. And then we also had copies at Grant and Eddington. And there's kind of a gap in that May. Yes, sir.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Because I canvassed that area a lot. And what I'm hearing is that a lot of things are happening. A lot of things are even though I know that there are some things that's, you know, happening as far as the community engagement, because but a lot of people are telling me that they're not really getting the information. The ones who's really affected by it is not really getting it. I think it's a new organization in that area as well. It's not Southside, but it's a new. It seems like for some reason, they're not getting the information.
Okay. I would love to know if you can get me information on who that is, because what I'm getting at is the reason there's a gap in between that, you know, May, July, and now is because when we've gone to the Southside United meetings and presented to them, we've heard feedback from them saying, you know, the same thing. So we then started, you know, trying to canvass even more and ask people, how else, like, who else do we need to talk to? Like, who else can we get this out to? So I'm sure we would love to know the group you're speaking of, because we definitely want to touch base with everyone we can. Yes, Alex.
Thanks, Jessica. I just want to add to back up what Jessica is saying, is that we also worked with our communications staff for the mailer in particular, to make sure it went to every single mailbox within the area that was defined by the Southside neighborhood boundary on their neighborhood page. And that was confirmed with the USPS that they actually did deliver to all those boxes. So I'm just trying to reiterate that we're trying, our hardest to make sure we get every single voice that wants to speak to us, to tell us what they think, feel, whatever. So yeah, if you, Chair Griffin, if you have, specific people that you can send us to make sure we're in touch with them, we would certainly appreciate that, the opportunity to meet with them, whether it's going to their house or whatever works for them.
Okay, well, thank you. Is a quick question. Is public housing in that area a part of Southside? It is?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, we can continue down. So to kind of go into what the actual questions were identified by the team to ask out in this survey, one of the questions was, where do you live? And looking at the responses, now keep in mind, the survey is still open. And so this was done in the initial closing we were going to do, and the community wanted it back open. And so we've gotten a lot more than what you're seeing here. So as of then, there was 68 responses. And on the street you live on, the most were Livingston Street from the folks that participated. And then we can go down. And one of the questions, why do or don't you go to Walton Street? And it seems a lot of folks that took the survey initially do go there. So, and the few that don't, it was not enough activities and no pool, which we definitely understand, we do, but we're hoping to fix the activity side of that for the community. So we can go down. And then it got into the question of, are there any park features that you would like to see improved or added? The biggest one we've heard, or the biggest ones we've heard, are the basketball blacktop, and we understand that needs definite work. And then there was a lot of support on the asphalt surfaces for biking, skating, and walking. And then an improved picnic shelter area, more grills, and then some type of multi-use field, not necessarily the baseball field that's there now. It was just a multi-use field. And again, I reiterate, the survey is still open, so we're still taking feedback on all of this. Okay, you can go down. So, and this is where things like our timeline is going to be a little skewed, and that was to the request of the Southside United group, and we, like I've said, we want to honor that. But the next portion of this was going to be to take the feedback and then create, with our team, create 3 different options, and then engage the community on those options and get feedback on kind of, what do you want to see? We want to, so, and then kind of finagle around with those diagrams to figure out what best fits the community's needs. I think you can go down. So this is our project timeline. And this was done going back to the Southside Neighborhood Association, and then wanting us to put the first initial survey, this phase 1 in our communication, back out to the community as a whole. And honestly, they really wanted us to put it out to the greater Asheville community, because they believe that there's, more folks in the community that do use the Walton Street Park and would, or have used, or past members of the community that have now moved out, but would want to give their feedback on that. And so we're really just trying to push this out to the greater Asheville community, and hoping we can use the commission's help in doing that as well. As of right now, we're looking at closing date of September 11th. So that survey is still on public input and can be used through September 11th. We also we can have paper surveys at community centers. We have the mailer flyer pieces. Yes, sir.
I can wait till you finish. I just want to ask a question when you get done with that.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, so we're currently working with different community centers within the historical Black neighborhoods to set up tables to hopefully, talk to folks as they come in the centers. And then there's a few other events that will be coming up that we're also going to have tables at to have surveys available, paper surveys, or use the QR codes. And that is what we've got so far. And I think the next slide would bring Alex in when it goes down to the historical designation. So, Mr. Hayes, did you have a?
Yes. So you touched on something I wanted to ask from the very beginning of this whole presentation, because you spoke about making sure that people around that area and on those particular streets where they live get this information. Mm-hmm. But if we're talking historic value, right, and heritage, there are, like Aaron and I, we grew up on that side of town. We grew up over there, but we don't live there anymore. There are like thousands of people that grew up there that don't live there that have a vested interest in what goes on with Walton Street. So, we know that it costs too much for them to like redo the pipes for the pool and all that. So now we have this other pool being built. When you talk about going around giving the information or like putting, letters and boxes and things like that, if you have a newer generation of people that doesn't have the history over there that some of us have, then you're not going to get the same response. So my question is, are we not considering a citywide, to address people on a citywide level? When even as we continue, I would have did that even before, started like asking questions. I know because we only think about people that are there, but there's a great history of people that have come from that area. So I was sort of like going further, as you move to the things you're going to do, how can we get this information out to more people in the community?
And that's where we're at right now, and that's what we're doing. We're putting it out to the greater Asheville community before we move into the phase of having the diagrams. So we're still in that initial kind of putting it out. And the first feedback from the direct community was to be to the direct community. But now we're learning that I guess after them thinking about it, it needs to go out. And so that's where we're at right now. And like I said, I can share the links or whatever works for you all. And definitely reach out to myself or Alec or Alex with anything and any feedback on how better to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was asking. Like, how are you planning on doing the how and who really? It's the how and who, because who's presenting has a lot to do with the response that you get, right? I mean, we're aware that representation matters. So if you're coming in and you're representing something that's coming to do something to a part of the place that they love, and you're not looking like you come from that area, or you're looking like the system that is like not of the area, you might not get the feedback that you're asking. So that's why I'm asking the who and the how. Yeah,
I completely respect that and completely get it. And that's where we have pulled in the folks within the Southside community to help us and that the events that are coming up with the tables and being at different events and putting themselves out at things throughout the city. That's going to be on a volunteer basis with community members as well. And
Mr. Hayes, I have a couple of things to add when I get towards the end of my piece of things to talk to you about in terms of opportunities for community members to give public comment as part of the landmark review process, because there will be opportunities for that in the next couple of months. So I'll go over all of that in detail, just in terms of like adding on to what Jessica's already described.
All right, thank you.
Josie, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I'm Josie Ward. I'm with the Preservation Society, but more relevant here is that I wrote the nomination for the local landmark for Walton Pool. Before we move to landmarking, though, I had a question for you, Jessica, which is how finalized are the new pool plans? At what stage? Are they completely finalized and finished?
For the grant center?
Yes.
Yeah, we're in construction phase. So yes, depending on what portion of it you're speaking of, but yeah, we're pretty finalized on those. Like they'll be starting to dig for the actual pool here in the next month.
Okay. Was there any community input about those pool designs?
From my understanding, there was. I was not with the center when that initially happened. So I didn't come in until, I've been with the city for 16 years, but I didn't come into this facility in this neighborhood until January of 2021. So I don't know how much I can speak on all of that without, doing some research, but I can get back to you on that for sure.
Are the pool designs available publicly?
I don't know that. I have to ask. I know we do have the project page for that site. And there may be, I don't know if the actual design documents, but there's stock photo, like mock photos up on that project page.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, I got a question for Josie. Hey, and thank you for writing that for. So just in general, what makes like a landmark like Walton, such an interest for preservation? I mean, what are these key qualities that made this thing happen? You understand?
Here, I'm sorry, Chair Griffin. I feel like I need to probably get through my piece of things, and then we can move on to questions for Josie. Because my role here is I manage the city's historic preservation program, so I'm going to go over all of that in great detail as quickly as I can because I know.
I would like to ask Josie. I would like to ask Josie if you don't mind, just real quick. Thank you.
I would also love to follow Alex, but very briefly, I would say that the rarity of Walton Park in the city, is that feedback me? I don't know if everyone is hearing feedback. I'm hearing very strange feedback. The rarity of Walton Park in the city is part of what made it rise to the level of importance, because it was the first and really only still standing African-American park for the city. And so the rarity of that made it more and more urgent that we get it landmarked.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Now you can move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair Griffin, and I appreciate all of you and for letting us have some time here to talk with you about all of this that we've had going on. So again, my name is Alex. I've managed the city's historic preservation program, and one of my main roles is staff liaison to the Historic Resources Commission, and one of their charges from statutory authorities is to document, research historic resources, and then potentially designate them or nominate them for some formal designation. So I help facilitate all of that work on behalf of the city as well as Buncombe County, because the HRC is also a joint commission like you all are. So to back up, I just want to give some context kind of on how the HRC works and kind of what the landmark process is, and how we've gotten here in terms of the historic piece of things. So back about 4 years or so ago, the city started in earnest doing what we call architectural survey, which is a bit of a misnomer. It's more of an inventory, if you will. It's the documenting part of what our programmatic responsibilities are, where we go out and we physically go into the built environment and say, we inventory historic resources, and we specifically at that point started to do work around documenting and researching historic resources specifically related to our African American neighborhoods, because we hadn't done that. You could look at our GIS data related to historic resources and see that we had a lot of holes where, since we started doing these architectural surveys back in the 1970s, we hadn't specifically documented a lot of our Black neighborhoods. So we started trying to really focus our program on that in order to try to provide more equitable planning services. That the architectural or historic resource data can be used for a lot of different purposes. I know when Ms. Mitchell started her African American Heritage Trail work, we were hoping that our survey work would be done sooner so that that could, help support her work too. But just to give one example of how that data can be utilized. So back when we first started that, the first survey that we worked on identified 3 different historic resources that were potentially eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places, one of which was Walton Street Park. And so I just want to real quick describe the 2 different types of historic designations that we work with. One is the National Register of Historic Places. That's like the national database of historic properties, places, sites, archaeological places, etc. That designation is managed by the state and the National Park Service. We at the HRC makes advisory comments to them whenever there's a nomination for a property in Buncombe County. That designation type is primarily honorific in nature. There's no regulatory piece that comes with it, unless there were federal funds being used for a project that might affect a historic property listed in the National Register or eligible for listing in the National Register. An example of that would be like the I-26 widening project, right? There's a lot of historic resources nearby to that. So whenever federal funding is being utilized for projects like that, and we assess how those resources might be affected. Yes, sir.
Would Stevens Lee be a part of that as well?
Yeah, so Stevens Lee is not actually listed in the National Register, but it is a local historic landmark. We have 3 local landmarks that specifically are related to. I'm drawing a blank on one of them. Sorry, 3. Okay, there's 3. The YMI is a local historic landmark. Stevens Lee Gymnasium is, as well as the South Asheville Cemetery. So those are 3 examples of local landmarks. We have 49 total in the county. But just to give you an idea of how many that are, that's only 3 out of the 42 in the city limits are specifically African American historic resources. So we have a lot of work to do. So that's the National Register piece. Now the local landmark piece that's an authority that the Historic Resources Commission is given by state statute. Local landmark is it's the language in the state statute is a little fluffy. It says special historic significance. Basically that means it's elevated above, let's say, I'm trying to think, think of all the beautiful buildings around Pack Square. They may not all be the Jackson Building or City Hall or the YMI, or, they may not be some special significance, but that's really kind of up for the HRC to determine based on the evidence that they're given, which comes in the form of a landmark designation report, which is what Josie put together as the applicant on behalf of Preservation Society. She drafted the landmark designation report, which I shared with Brenda today, and I thought I shared it with her before the last meeting when we weren't able to join you because didn't have quorum last time, but if I didn't share that, I hope that Brenda will send that to you all to read, and feel free to send me any comment or questions. Happy to talk with you about it. So the National Register eligibility was determined like 2 or 3 years ago, and then fast forward to this past winter when the Preservation Society decided to put forth their application for landmark designation. It happened to dovetail with the parks piece of asking the community about the amenities or the park improvements there. So that's why these two things ended up on a parallel track. It could have happened differently, like if we'd gotten a landmark designation application a year ago, then it wouldn't have been the same ask as park staff asking about the other improvements to the park. So landmark designation has some steps to it, which is what we're in the middle of since we have the application in the queue. It first goes to the Historic Resources Commission for review, and they give advisory comments like, does it need any revisions, et cetera? And then it goes to the State Historic Preservation Office. Then comes back to the city for us to schedule a formal public hearing with the HRC, which is one opportunity for public comment. And then the second opportunity for public comment will be when it goes to City Council, because ultimately they make the final determination based on the HRC recommendation. What's a little bit different about this, obviously, is that it's a public asset. It's a community asset. And so we don't usually do like this kind of amount of engagement for a landmark designation if it's like a private property. But obviously we want to know from the larger community, please tell us if you support this. We don't want to do something, we don't want to landmark something if that's not what the community wants. And so hence us tagging on to parks engagement opportunities to be in person for our survey, et cetera. It's been really, really a great opportunity for my department to do, because we don't usually get to throw parties and fun stuff like Parks does as far as engagement goes. So, so in any case, as Jessica pointed out, kind of where we are, we're still like the survey is still out there until September 11th. Since we got community feedback that, as you all pointed out, it is a community-wide asset. And we want to hear from as many folks who will participate as possible, so that when we do go to the HRC and to City Council, we can say the same things that we've illustrated to this group is like, here's all the engagement that we've done or tried to do, and here's what we ended up with in terms of the feedback that we heard. And the HRC has to make their recommendation based on the criteria set forth by the state. But I think they want to make their recommendation like saying, hey, this is the, X% said that they support local designation. And so we're recommending that the designation because it's historic and the community supports it. They don't want to go to the City Council with a recommendation that doesn't have that information. So, so the landmark designation, to go back to kind of the difference between that and the National Register, is that landmark designation does mean that there is basically like a zoning overlay that happens to the pool and the pool house if they're designated. And it just creates like a design review requirement. Part of what the Historic Resources Commission does is they review applications for proposed changes or improvements to historic landmarks. That does not mean that it cannot be changed, reimagined for a different use, et cetera. It's not intended to make it a static space, because we don't want that. That's not how historic spaces are best used or celebrated by the community or an individual person. So I want to make sure that I convey that to this group, because a lot of people think that historic preservation means that it freezes a property in time. And that's definitely not the case. And so I just want to make that really clear, and happy to go into more detail or answer questions about that if it's helpful. And so our timeline next steps is that I actually just sent let me go back to one thing that's different about this is that you all are a stakeholder. So in terms of this process, I also want to be able to take whatever feedback, questions, et cetera, you have for me about this landmark designation, or any concerns that you have to the Historic Resources Commission as well. Since in our minds, you're a partner stakeholder with them on this project, even though they're the ones with the statutory authority to designate the landmark. So I'm certainly happy to come back to you again later in the process. But right now, we're hoping that what we heard back from Southside community specifically was that there seemed to be consensus around wanting us to get the landmark designation in front of City Council before the election. So we're trying to keep it on that timeline and schedule the public hearing for the HRC in September, which would be September 14th. And then for October City Council on the 25th. And I am meeting with our communications staff next week to push out to all the neighborhood folks who are subscribed to the neighborhood newsletter, those dates and ways to, number one, take the survey via our information about the landmark designation part, as well as those dates and how to attend those meetings to give public comment should people want to. So I'm meeting with her to work on that next week. And I haven't even asked Brenda to show any of my slides. There's just a few here, and then I'll wrap it up because I know that was a lot of information. It based on kind of, as Jessica pointed out, this data is dated now. Since the survey is still open, we haven't gone back to update these slides yet. But it seemed like there was about 80% support for designation of the pool and pool house. And then the slide before, I think that maybe these are a little bit out of order, but I think it was around 70% or so, 60 something percent supported designation of both. I can't read that with my old eyeballs. 61% supported both designation types. I think I looked at our public input site where the survey is today, and it was a little over 70% for both. So that's all of my giant ball of wax to share with you all. And then I did share some slides here about kind of what those designations mean. This is also on our project page, which I will drop in the chat so that, I feel like talking about historic preservation and different designation types can be a lot of verbiage and overwhelming to folks who don't work in my specific field. And it's just sort of the nature of that beast. So it's kind of succinctly written out on the project page, if that's helpful for you to read yourself or to share with others. With that, I will just offer to answer questions. If any of you folks have questions, happy to answer. That'll talk everyone to sleep.
Thank you so much for the information. No questions? Well, I'd like to personally thank all of you. Well, Joe, did you have any more you wanted to speak on?
I really didn't. I just wanted to be sure to be here. I'm not sure if you all have even seen the report, but if you had questions for me about it, I'd be happy to field them.
Do we have time for her to speak, Brenda?
For who to speak?
Josie, I thought you wanted to.
No, what she's saying is, I just got that report today that I remember. So
okay.
I don't remember if you sent it earlier or did not. I have a million emails. Okay. I will get the report to you. It's about 40 pages. And then
Okay.
if you have questions, I think it'll be great to have them come back to kind of follow up if you
Please.
have questions.
No questions. And I'd just like to personally just, on the behalf of the commission as well, just thank you all for the great work that you're doing and just coming sharing information. Really appreciate it. It's very enlightening. So we're gonna move on to attendance and vacancies. It's feedback.
That's
Got-
you.
That's me?
Yeah,
Okay.
just mute.
Okay.
I'll go over this. I will not be
Okay.
long.
Okay, all right.
So basically, we got a couple of things we got to do today. So Beverly Miller's term, your vice chair, ended July 1. Lynn Michelle's position needs to be replaced by the county. Georgia Shannon's term ended July 11. And then we need a vote. So one of the things we're going to need to do is, I believe they replaced Beverly with Diamond Couch. So you got Diamond, so that makes 8. And then when we put it out for more applications, you will need you as a commission. So 3 come from the county, 3 appointments come from the city, and then you as a commission pick 3 people. And Georgia is one of those people. So you'll need to pick one person for that. Yeah. And so I need a vote though. Stephen Blunt did not send us an actual email resigning. He had just noted that with a couple of people. So we just need a motion that that the board approves replacing the vacancy being left by Stephen Blunt, which is a city, I believe it's a city appointment, so that I can give that to the clerk's office.
A motion.
Catherine Mitchell, I so move.
Ashley, was you the first? Oh, no, that was, I'm sorry.
Aaron.
That was Aaron. All right.
And Ashley.
All righty. We just need to take a vote and a roll call.
Aaron Griffin, aye. Ashley Wilberding.
Aye.
Brandon Oliver. Catherine Mitchell.
Aye.
Michael Hayes.
I believe, yeah, he's still there.
Both Brandon Oliver.
Wonder if they're having video, audio problems. I know Brandon has some background. I'm not sure about Michael.
So should we move on?
See if you can get them to come back on. I don't know. They were just there. I'll try texting. I don't know. I text both of them. I don't know. I know Brandon has some. We can't hear you. Okay. Brandon says he's here, but I'm not sure what happened to Michael. Chair, Commissioner Hayes, Commissioner Oliver. There you go. We're taking a vote on a motion to replace Stephen Blunt. It's been properly moved and seconded, and we're just doing a roll call vote.
I'm sorry, I don't know why y'all aren't able to hear me, but I said yes, I approve.
Okay. Commissioner Hayes? I don't know. I didn't hear back from him. That's 4. You have enough for a quorum. Chair Griffin,
Yes.
you have enough for a quorum. I'm not
Oh.
sure what happened. So you're good to go.
Good to go. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So, Brenda, do we have anyone in the waiting in the queue for comment?
We had technical difficulties with public input, so I'm pretty sure no.
Okay.
No. This is on YouTube. This is on YouTube, and you can hear the audio, so people can go back and watch it. They also can email in comments or leave voicemails. So we got to figure out what's wrong. It just never would connect. So, but you've been on live on YouTube.
But thank you. So, any future agenda items? Not, the next regular meeting is scheduled for Thursday, September the 8th, 2022. And we will notify the public if we will continue virtually or in person once the state of emergency is lifted. Check on the city's engagement hub for more directions on how to participate. Any comments, questions? If not, so I'll adjourn.